Right, Project Diesel bike. The black strap is brewed. We are ready for, we're just conditioning now. These have been in 24 hours. I crushed the bottles right down to allow for expansion. Now that expansion's taken place and we've got this space now, vacuum. Right, so that's a completed welder. Where are we? Come here. There it is. Plug, let's plug it in. Alright, a little bit closer. Oh, so what have I've done to it? As you can see, you've got the fan whirring away there. That's it's only a 50 watt fan. It's a big thing. It's only 50 watts. Cut a hole in the back, bolted it in, fitted the transformer just down here. The electrical control panel, as I said, those 4 white pegs, that's what that sits on, that's behind there. And then I came across a bicycle, a child's bicycle that had been fly tipped at a local fly tipping zone. I always have a look, see what things are there. That's where I get most of my metal from. And there was a child's bicycle with some stabilisers on. So I picked it up. And that's my stabilisers there. I've welded them to a square section piece of steel and bolted them to the underside. Had to make some legs for the front. I think that's 2 before. Bloody big long bolt screw in it and another screw to stop it twisting, so they're in the wood for good. And then I decided it was so heavy, and it seems to be like 50% heavier than my 110 welder, which is about right because it's 50% bigger duty. So it's just too heavy for me to carry, so I decided to put an angle on it to be able to push it about. So I've welded up this bracket. Let's have a look. Can you see? And also it's a cable tider. You can wrap your cables around. It's bloody a bit of a... Whenever you're moving these things, you've always got your cables trailing about. Let's have a look so you can see it. See it fully in its full glory. So that's just a square section piece of steel that I found, that bit there. And I like to utilise, whenever I can, existing welds in pieces of metal. So at first I was going to cut it off there and cut that at an angle and then weld it back on so that the square section steel was in that angle. And then I thought, but I always were thinking about these things. No, I thought, just keep it as an L section. And then I thought about getting a box spanner and welding that on there and push the handle down, broom handle down. And then it suddenly occurred to me, well, I've got this child's bicycle. It's got a seat post in it, and a seat post. Will it take a broom handle, a seat post? And it did, with a bit of whittling. So I cut the seat post off the kiddie's bike, and I've welded that on there. and that little piece of metal there, that was sort of welded onto the other side. It was part of that, and I'd cut them off flush, so that were laid about. Oh, I'll weld that on there, and it made it look just a bit smarter. That could do with an angle grinder at some point in the future. And then I always like to incorporate a spanner in my works, and that's there just to wrap your cables round. So that's about it. Oh, other things. Now, when I was in the course of just sort of updating it, turbocharging it, breathing on it, the primary winding came undone from the copper feed wire. Now, that's just a copper wire going to the aluminium primary winding, and it's crimped on with a heavy duty crimp, and it sort of snapped off, opened up and fell off. So it just sat there open circuit doing nothing. So I located that fault. Quite easy to do. The circuit on these is so simple. It's basically power in through the primary winding, out and through a heat sensor, and back to neutral, and that's it. So it's not a difficult circuit to trace. And so I found that broken connection. So I was going to solder it back together, but my soldering iron, it's just not heavy enough to do it. It was too much of an heat sink. It was pulling the heat away. So all I did was I got some 6mm cable, wrapped it round the aluminium, the part of the protruding piece of aluminium, wrapped it round, bent the aluminium over and crushed it down against the copper wire. And then, but it wasn't quite a good enough fit, so then I got some copper pipe and I cut off 1 centimetre of copper pipe, then cut through it and opened it up and flattened it out, and then bent that round and formed another crimp and crushed that down with a pair of mole grips. So that then became a good secure electrical connection. And then I was just looking for a way to insulate that connection. So what I did was I looked in the bin and I found a tube of toothpaste, cut the bottom off the tube of toothpaste, a plastic tube, and threaded the 6mm wire through the nozzle and pushed it down over all the crimp that I'd made. So then you've got like a skirt going over it, and then a piece of braided rubber hose over the 6mm copper wire, and then put the spade connector on the end of that and plug it into the heat sensor, and it were fine. Now, another thing also I did when I was temporary welding, me lugs, I think the lugs came off and they touched the side there, the metal side, which caused a short circuit. And again, the boiler went, the welder just went into a open circuit mode, not working. And I traced that to the switches on these, the contacts on these switches had slightly burned. So I took the switch to bits, fiddly as all. If you're ever going to take that switch in bits, don't take it apart in a dusty shed or all like that. Take it apart in your living room, because if when those little springs go springy and go airborne, you're going to be on your hands and knees looking for them. And there's, I think, there's only two. It's two tiny little springs, and it's easy to get. You can do it. It's not watchmaking. It's easy enough. It just takes patience. But like I say, if those springs go airborne and you're in a dusty shed, you'll never find them. So just clean them up, put it back together. It worked fine. And just to stop that happening again, I've cut out some plastic off just an L shape. Cut it long enough. Take the two screws out the side. Cut it long enough. Push it in. Screw it back in. And then you've got your metal sides are insulated then. So, and that's my welder. Oh, the final thing, the broom handle shaft. As soon as I put it on and I went towards it, I thought that's going to poke me in the eye one day. So I've made this. It's the black. I don't know if you can read that. The black Iowa TM, which is a coffee jar lid screwed on there, and it stops me poking myself in the eye with a broom handle, which is always a good idea. So there we go. Tune in later. Well, I did say I'd get a better camera. That's not happened yet. Still acquiring tools, but it's definitely on the list.